extension, Governor Abiodun reiterated the need for people to regularly use their face mask when they go out in order to flatten the curve of coronavirus. The governor said as a strategic state, it has become necessary to observe all government protocols as efforts have been stepped up to curtail this disease. The governor called for the cooperation of all and sundry. President Muhammadu Buhari has said that in a bid to prevent the spread of coronavirus, there is no need for government officials, political leaders, community heads, Muslim and Christian religious leaders and children to pay him Eid al-Fitr homages at the presidential villa, Abuja. He explained that his decision was in compliance with the safety measures put in place in the Federal Capital Territory to guard against the spread of COVID-19. President Buhari, who said he will spend the period at home with his family, also cited the directive of the Sultan of Sokoto, Al-Haji Sa'ad Abubakar, suspending 8 congregational prayers across the country, as well as measures introduced by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. A statement by his spokesman, Mr. Garba Shehu, on Friday reads that with the Eid al-Fitr celebrations around the corner and the month-long Ramadan fast coming to an end, President Muhammadu Buhari will be conducting his Eid prayers with his family at home. As the lockdown in Ogun State has been relaxed for the last time this week, Muslim faithful used the opportunity to shop for the Eid al-Fitr celebration. Ido Fabajo reports that social distancing was not observed, while some people also refused to use face masks. His report.
On a day like this, when there is relaxation of lockdown, roads are filled with cars. Likewise, banks, markets, as well as parks or garages are always in a high patronage. Even those who could not pass through the rigorous stress at the ATM, they make use of POS machine. This is Likpede Market in Abeokuta. The rules here is no face mask and washing of hands, no entry.
We are trying to prevent the escalation of the coronavirus in the markets. Like in our market now, if you don't use face mask, you can't enter the markets. And you have to wash your hand before entering the market. So we can prevent. I think prevention is better than cure. In my market, they comply.
Few hours from now, Muslim faithful will be celebrating Eid al-Fitr, and this relaxation witness people shopping for the festival, though it will most likely be celebrated in a low key.
We want to buy some things for the salad that is coming up either tomorrow or next tomorrow. It's going to be a low key one. We don't expect us to go around. We are going to do it in our house. We buy little things we can afford. Then with our children in our house, we do whatever we can do. That is all.
So I'm going home now. I'm going home because of the Eid al-Fitr. Even though we won't be able to move around, but at least when we are with our family, it is different from being alone.
After the lockdown, there is curfew from 8 in the evening till dawn. Idowu Fabajo, Ogtv News.
28 new cases have returned positive in Oyo State. Out of the figure, 27 are from Eastern Experience. The telecoms call center shut down around the axis of the state, while the last case is from Akinyele local government area of the state. The new additions bring to 105 the number of staff that have tested positive to the novel coronavirus in Oyo, while the total confirmed cases in the state stands at 190. While giving an update on the development, Governor Seyi Makinde said the state is doing everything in its power to contain the spread of the virus. He appealed to the people of the state to adhere to all the safety rules because most of the cases reported in the state are asymptomatic. Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna State said on Friday that out of the 18 new cases of COVID-19 confirmed in the state, 10 were members of the same family. Governor El-Rufai in a tweet said the new cases were recorded in 4 local government areas of the state. They are Kaduna North, Zaria, Chikun, and Sabongari local government areas. According to him, 14 of the new cases are from Kaduna North, 2 from Zaria, and 1 each from Chicken and Sabongeri. The governor appealed to residents to adhere strictly to safety measures put in place to check the spread of the virus in the state. Governor El Rufai tweeted that 18 new cases were recorded today, 10 of whom are family members of 1 case. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has decried the rate of purchase of hydroxychloroquine by Nigerians. The PTF chairman, Mr. Boss Mustafa, warned the citizens against self-medication, especially when they have symptoms of COVID-19. He explained that the drug has not been certified for the treatment of the disease and could be harmful to such patients. Through the surveillance system set up by the PTF reports, have it that Nigerians have been purchasing hydroxychloroquine in large quantities, said Mustafa, who is also the secretary to the government of the Federation. The PTF chairman stressed that Nigerians must see COVID-19 as a highly infectious and dangerous disease, noting that the World Health Organization had warned that the world still has a long way to go in fighting the pandemic. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has successfully validated the first phase of the viral ribonucleic acid extraction, which should enable local production of cheap testing kits for coronavirus. The validation took place on Thursday in the laboratory of the National Biotechnology Development Agency in Abuja. The Director General of NABDA, Professor Alex Akpa, noted that after the exercise, the success of the validation was important not only to Nigeria, but Africa as a whole. The success of the validation shall enable Nigeria to massively produce test kits so that more people will be tested for COVID-19, not only in Nigeria, but in Africa. The DG said the immediate aim is to produce reagents for real-time polymerase chain reaction. And remember, recently, the lack of reagents told work in Kano and molecular diagnosis could no longer take place. He also recalled that the absence of the same reagent equally stalled COVID-19 diagnosis in Lagos for many days. He disclosed that the project was a pan-African project whose partners include Ethiopia, NCDC, and the University of Sheffield, United Kingdom, among others, with funding to come from the African Development Bank. Coming up, INEC approves policy for election conduct amid coronavirus outbreak. Join us after the break for details.
I no fit forget the day we all will life change forever.
It is now a reality. We will all face a global unprecedented crisis.
But even as we dey wrestle with this wahala wey brekete for this kind critical time, we don't promise ourselves say we go do better pass as we dey do before. And wetin we go do no be just for we o, na to see say we customer dem dey safe as we dey give them all the better things wey dem need pass for the price we no go tear dem pocket. Because that na our work wey we must to do. We tanda gidigba for you all the time, and we go service you with joy and jollity every day.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Ogtv News. The Ogun State Steering Committee of the Nigeria for Women Project, NFWP, has been inaugurated in Abeokuta. The committee, comprising the State Commissioners of Finance, Agriculture, Commerce and Industry, as well as Commission for Women Affairs and Social Welfare Development, alongside the Ministry's Permanent Secretary, is to be chaired by the Deputy Governor, Engineer Noy Motsalako Oyedele. Inaugurating the committee in an office in Okemoson, the Deputy Governor said the Women Project is a World Bank credit facility to support improved livelihoods for women in targeted areas in the country.
Shows you that this is something that is very dear to our hearts, that we are committed to, and we're very happy that the World Bank is supporting us with this, because this will also help us with our project to understand the different ways, and we can also learn from the arrangements that the World Bank has in place to be able to improve our own program as well as we go along across the states. This program at the onset will benefit 54,000 women in the state. This is very impressive, and from all indications, people across all sectors will benefit.
Short Study Committee will ensure that the targeted women benefit from the program, saying that women empowerment is key to the Governor Dapo Abiodun-led administration. In a welcome address, the Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Honorable Olufunmilayo Efakpe, noted that the project will provide a leadway for women to benefit from the federal government as well as the World Bank program. Also speaking, the Commissioner for Finance and Chief Economic Advisor to Governor Abiodun, Mr. Dapo Okubadejo, said the team would work hard towards achieving the goals and deliver its key objectives within the set time frame. Addressing the new committee through virtual media, the World Bank Task Team leader, Mr. Michael Elisomi, said the project, which is a flagship, will open up more opportunities for empowerment and economic dependence for women. It is the first of its kind in Nigeria. While presenting the brief on the project, the state coordinator, Mrs. Bolanle Fadairo, explained that the 5 years project is for states beneficiary from the 6 senatorial districts for phase 1, namely Abia, Edo, Kebbi, Niger, Taraba, and Ogun states. The project, which will benefit 54,000 women in the state, has Ijebu Northeast, Odeda, and Iwo North, as well as local government areas selected from the 3 senatorial districts of the state. 6 bills, the Ogun State Official Order of Precedence of Public Officers and Other Persons Law 2019, State Mortgages and Foreclosure Law 2019, the State Technical and Vocational Education Board Amendment Law 2019, scaled through second reading on the floor of the State House of Assembly. Correspondent Kola Woliosho reports that the Speaker, Right Honorable Olakunle Oluomo, thereafter committed the 6 bills to various committees for further legislative actions. Details in this package.
6 bills that scale second reading include Ogun State Official Order of Precedence of Public Officers and Other Persons Law 2019, State Mortgages and Foreclosure Law 2019, the State Technical and Vocational Education Board Amendment Law 2019 have scaled second reading in the floor of the State House of Assembly. Others are the State Health Insurance Scheme Amendment Law 2020, the State Public Health Law 2020, and State Regulations Approval Law 2020 were all deliberated upon by the lawmakers at a plenary presided over by the Speaker, Right Honorable Olakunle Oluomo, at the Assembly Complex Okemoson, Abeokuta. All the Assembly members took turn to examine the bills shortly after separate motions for the second reading of the bills were moved by the lawmakers with the support of all other lawmakers through a voice vote. Opening debate on the State Official Order of Precedence of Public Officers and Other Persons Law 2019, the sponsor, Honorable Mujota, said that the bills was meant to correct administrative errors by spelling out in clear terms the order of protocols for political offices orders, elective and appointment, with a view to promoting orderliness in the running of governance in the state as being practiced at the national level. The view, which was corroborated by other lawmakers who noted that it would help promote orderliness and aid free flow of information. On the Mortgages and Foreclosure Law 2019, the sponsor, Honorable Shoneye, and other co-sponsors opined that the bill would assist the people in accessing national mortgage funds, address housing deficit with benefit to state in boosting its asset on land, and create an enabling environment in the repayment plan for subscribers of mortgage facilities across the state. In his lead debate on the bill, State Technical and Vocational Education Board Amendment Law 2019, Honorable Adeyemi and other lawmakers posited that the legislative instrument would help revive state vocational institutions, encourage apprenticeship with international standards in vocational training centers towards ensuring that the teeming youth become self-reliant in the technology-driven society. Members who took turn to contribute to the debate on the State Health Insurance Scheme amendment corroborated the submissions of the sponsor, Honorable Adeyanju, who sought the need for the state to key into the universal health coverage scheme through unhindered access to basic health care by workers in the formal sector, hereby protecting them from untold financial hardship, especially at the point of accessing healthcare services. Also, on the State Public Health Law 2020, lawmakers in their separate submissions said the bill, when passed by the Assembly and signed into law by the State Governor, Prince Dapo Abiodun, would serve as a legal framework for the people to operate in relations to public health system, whether before, during, and after any outbreak of diseases, while assigning responsibilities to each stage of healthcare system on the mode of preventing, combating, and planning against any outbreak, as well as avoidance of duplication of responsibilities by health workers. In their separate submissions to the lead debater, Honorable Mujata, on the State Regulations Approval Law 2020, members stated that the bill became imperative as all regulations were expected to pass through the appropriate chain of authority before being approved, adding that delegated regulations to ministries, departments, and agencies of government are to be validated by the legislative arm in line with the principles of separation of powers. Responding, Speaker Oluomo lauded the lawmakers for robust contributions to the 6 bills, thereafter directed that the bills be committed to the House Committees on Establishments and Service Matters, Lands and Housing, Education, Science and Technology, as well as Earth for further legislative actions.
The Inspector General of Police, IGP Muhammad Abubakar Adamu, has reminded all Nigerians that the COVID-19 prevention regulation orders, which include the interstate movement restriction orders, national curfew, and the prohibition of mass social religious gatherings by the federal government, is still in force. The restrictions and ban were imposed in Lagos, Ogun, Kano State, and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Abuja. Consequently, the IGP, in his Eid al-Fitr message, enjoined the citizens to observe the Eid celebrations, bearing in mind the unusual times occasioned by the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, as the force will leave no stone unturned towards the due enforcement of the orders. A statement by First Public Relations Officer Frank Mba quoted the IGP assuring the nation of adequate security during and after the Eid al-Fitr celebrations, noting that proactive and robust anti-crime measures, including the deployment of tactical and intelligence assets of the force, are already in place to prevent any untoward incident in the country. The IGP has congratulated Nigerians as the Muslim Ummah in the country celebrates this year's Eid al-Fitr. The IGP notes that the successful conclusion of the Ramadan, a period of self-denial geared towards attaining wholesomeness, reinforces his belief that with the citizens' collective perseverance and voluntary compliance with the prevention regulations emplaced by government at all levels, the nation will surely overcome the COVID-19 pandemic. The Federal Road Safety Commission, FRSC, Ogun State Command, will deploy 1,200 regular marshals for the Eid al-Fitr special patrol operations across Ogun State. Similarly, to ensure a road traffic crash-free operations, 37 patrol vehicles, 5 advanced life support ambulances, 5 high-capacity patrol motorbikes, and a heavy-duty tow truck have been deployed for the special operations between Friday 22nd and Saturday 30th of May 2020. A statement by the command says the personnel were added to complement the operatives deployed daily enforcing the presidential directive on COVID-19 operations in Ogun State. The sector commander, Clement Oladile, has therefore enjoined all the operatives deployed to display high level of diligence and professionalism. Meanwhile, the Ogun State Traffic Compliance and Enforcement Corps, TRACE, has mapped out strategies to deploy full strength of its operational apparatus to enforce the stay-at-home order, especially on interstate travels at borderlines during the Eid al-Fitr celebration. A statement by the Corps Public Relations Officer, Commander Babatunde Akimbiyi, the Corps Commandant and Chief Executive Officer, Commander Sheni Oguyemi, says all area commands, corridor commands, and divisional commands have been reinforced to upgrade the operational due diligence. The statement therefore urged the general public, particularly the motoring public, to adhere strictly to the dictates of the lockdown and curfew orders during the Eid al-Fitr celebration. Residents of border communities are implored to cooperate and support trace operatives to prevent incursion into the state by taking advantage of illegal routes. The Allah Salatu Society of Nigeria, West Africa, has urged Muslim faithful to eschew sentiment and accept the travail as a necessary sacrifice to rid the country of the deadly virus. This is coming on the heels of government's ban on religious gatherings, which also affect the Eid al-Fitr 2 Raka prayers, marking the end of Ramadan. A statement by the Secretary General of the body, Al-Haji Kamaldeen Akitunde, has it that the appeal became imperative in view of the clamor by some religious leaders and scholars asking government to vacate the order. The statement notes that with increasing number of COVID-19 cases, the call for relaxation will not be in the overall interest of all, adding that this will be counterproductive of progress made to flatten the curve of coronavirus. The body observed that with continued violation of all protocols to curtail the spread of COVID-19, lifting of ban on worship centers at this period will only compound the pandemic and urge all to exercise restraint. 47 years today, the National Youth Service Corps was created in a bid to integrate, reconcile, and rebuild one Nigeria after the 3-year civil war during General Yakubu Gowon's administration. The unfortunate war earlier in Nigeria's history gave impetus to the establishment of the scheme by Decree number 24 of 22nd May 1973. Shemilore Amore has details.
The future of any country depends on the kind of youth it develops. The need for positive integration of the youth in Nigeria for genuine unity necessitated the creation of the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) on May 22, 1973 by the retired General Yakubu Gowon's administration.
It has been generally accepted that if Nigeria is to make rapid progress on all fronts internally, and if she is to make her mark on the continent of Africa, and indeed in the Committee of Nations, then her youth must be fully mobilized and be prepared to offer willingly and without asking for rewards in return, their best in the service of their nation at all times. The establishment of the National Youth Service Corps is the first step towards the realization of this lofty goal.
The scheme was created with a view to encouraging and developing common ties among the youths of Nigeria and promotion of national unity. The need to look beyond the immediate present and think of the future leadership propelled the mobilization of certain categories of the nation's youths to other parts of the country other than their state of origin.
In conclusion, I wish to assure you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Directorate of the National Youth Service Corps, of the full support and cooperation of all the governments in the Federation in your undertakings. Yours is not an easy assignment, and the whole world will watch to see what you make of this bold and challenging venture. God willing, you will not fail. I wish you the very best of luck. success, and God's blessings.
As a developing nation, one of the primary purposes of the scheme is to inculcate the spirit of selfless service to communities and emphasize the spirit of oneness and brotherhood of all Nigerians, irrespective of cultural or social background. Shemilure Amore, Ogtv News.
And towards marking the 47th anniversary of the creation of the National Youth Service Corps, the Corps has intensified efforts in combating the spread of COVID-19 by reaching out to Corps members, healthcare providers on the front line, and children of Stella Obasanjo Children's Home. The outreach, led by the State Coordinator of NYSC, Dr. Mrs. Belinda Faniyi, was at the Federal Medical Center, Abeokuta, and was received by the management of the hospital. Matthew Shomi reports.
We are determined to contribute our quota to ensure the COVID-19 is defeated and the human race is free from the scourge of the pandemic. That was what the members of the National Youth Service Corps in Ogun State are saying as they joined the state coordinator, Dr. Mrs. Belinda Faniyi, to celebrate the 47th anniversary of the creation of the scheme at the front line of the battle against COVID-19. The Corps members who are serving in the Federal Medical Center have been on the front line since the outbreak of COVID-19, and the visit of the state coordinator is to, among other things, appreciate their contributions to the fight against the virus, celebrate with them, and see to their welfare while presenting them and the hospital with palliative. The state coordinator says the scheme has enjoyed good working relationship and great collaboration, which has resulted in many achievements.
Deem it necessary to come here today as we celebrate the 47th anniversary of the National Youth Service, to come and show appreciation to the FMC management.
Chief Medical Director of Federal Medical Center Abeokuta, Professor Musa Olomu, gave kudos to those who conceived the idea of the scheme and enjoined the federal government to do everything to address some of the challenges militating against the scheme. Professor Olomu lauds the Corps members for their contributions to the healthcare service in the hospital.
NYC have been a formidable organization, and the Corps members, they have been serving this country diligently very well. They have served quite a lot of institutions, industries, factories.
Speaking on behalf of his colleagues, pharmacist Aliu Mustafa expressed their joy in serving their fatherland and appreciated the gesture of the state NYSC. Presentations were made to the Corps members and the hospital. Earlier, the state coordinator was received by the management staff of the hospital, led by the head of clinical service, Dr. Ojeblemu Efe. The state coordinator said the scheme is happy to identify with the efforts of the hospital as she presented the magazine of NYSC to mark the 47th anniversary of the scheme to the hospital. The state coordinator then led members of the management of the scheme to Stella Obasanjo Children's Home to celebrate with them.
You find Corps members from various parts of the country who have come to serve in Ogun State. Nothing would have brought them here. They have come to serve, they've integrated into the society. So you will see that NYC over the years has continued to promote unity. It's not quantifiable, but every time it's happening.
The presentation of food items was received on behalf of the Home and the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development by Mrs. Latifat Abdurrahman. Matthew Shomi, Ogtv News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has approved a policy to conduct elections despite the outbreak of coronavirus in the country. INEC's National Commissioner and Chairman, Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, announced this in a statement. It is disclosed that the strategy tagged Policy on Conducting Elections in the Context of COVID-19 Pandemic will be released on Monday next week. Okoye explained that the policy would enable INEC officials and staff to handle the challenges of conducting elections in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. He added that it will provide for engagement with various stakeholders as they prepare for the forthcoming governorship elections in Edo and Ondo State, as well as some by-elections. According to INEC spokesperson, the Commission is committed to conducting all elections that are due within the extent of legal framework. He, however, noted that the electoral umpire will put a premium on public safety and mitigation of health risk from coronavirus. The Commission had earlier announced that it will not postpone the governorship elections in Edo and Ondo State, scheduled for September 19 and October 10, 2020, respectively. In its avowed commitment to eliminate crude oil theft and illegal oil bunkering, the Nigerian Navy said it has destroyed a total of 2,287 illegal refineries in the last 5 years. Making the disclosure during a press briefing to mark the Nigerian Navy's 64th anniversary at the Naval Headquarters, the Chief of Policy and Plans, Rear Admiral Ifeola Muhammad, stated that the service has drastically reduced illegal oil dealings in the Nigerian maritime environment from 2017 to 2019. He said, within the time under review, 82 smuggling boats and 22 vehicles with cumulatively 61,719 bags of rice were impounded, while a total of 449 suspected smugglers were arrested. Further highlighting the achievements of the Nigerian Navy in the last 5 years, Muhammad noted that under the current leadership, the service has reinvigorated its welfare program to further motivate personnel, adding that over time, the NN has sustained existing efforts and also put in place new schemes to improve personnel welfare. On the business segment of the news, 36 states and the FCT IGR hit 1.33 trillion naira in 2019. Stay tuned for details. Welcome to the business segment of the news. The World Bank has got a proposal of $1.5 billion to state as part of economic stimulus to cushion the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, says Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed. The minister stated this after the virtual National Economic Council anchored from the Presidential Villa, Abuja. According to her, the immediate fiscal relief for the state will include the acceleration of an existing program to enable disbursement by end of September. She said that by the end of September, the $1.5 billion plan will have been disbursed to the states as federal government was committed to supporting the financial viability of states, including the suspension of payment in respect of commitment debts that have been secured with ISPOs by the state at the federal levels. Nigeria's massive revenue loss as a result of the coronavirus pandemic was top discussion as the first virtual meeting of the National Economic Council. Finance, Budget and National Planning Minister Hajia Zainab Ahmed warned that Nigeria's gross domestic product might shrink this year. Mrs. Ahmed said with 40% of Nigeria's population classified as poor, the looming economic crisis would worsen their misery. She added that the projected oil and gas revenue for the country in the first quarter of 2020 suffered a 31% shortfall, representing about 125.52 billion naira. The nation's finance minister, Zainab Ahmed, says the coronavirus pandemic and falling oil prices are set to force the economy into negative growth. Ms. Ahmed made the comment after the National Economic Summit meeting in Abuja. On the economy, COVID-19 has resulted in a collapse in oil prices, she said. This, according to her, will impact negatively, and the impact has already started showing on the Federation's revenues and on the foreign exchange earnings. Net oil and gas revenue and influx to the Federation account in the first quarter of 2020 amounted to 940.91 billion naira. This represented a shortfall of 125.25 billion naira, or 31% of the purported amount that is supposed to have been realized by the end of that first quarter. The total internally generated revenue of states in the country rose slightly by 16 billion naira to 1.33 trillion naira as of the end of 2019, from 1.17 trillion naira at the end of the 2018 financial period. This was disclosed on Friday by the National Bureau of Statistics in its report for fourth quarter and full year 2019. The 36 state and FCT internally generated revenue hit 1.33 trillion naira in 2019 compared to 1.17 trillion naira recorded in 2018. This indicates a positive growth of 20.92% year-on-year. The federal government has spent about 10 billion naira subsidizing petroleum products in the last 15 years, the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria has said. The body has, however, said there was a need for full deregulation in the petroleum downstream sector. MOWAN Chairman Mr. Adetunji Oyebanji described the downstream sector as pivotal and fundamental to the health of the nation's economy. A London judge has ruled that Nigeria's $1 billion suit against oil giants Shell and Eni over the controversial Malabo deal cannot go ahead in England. The High Court judge, Christopher Butcher, said the court does not have jurisdiction to hear the claim. In his written decision, the judge said that the English case has both the same essential facts and parties as parallel proceedings in Italy, both brought by the Nigerian government over the Malabo deal. It was earlier reported how both oil giants argued to stop or stay proceedings in the $1 billion lawsuit brought by the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, says it has received a total of 26,169 complaints related to telecom's quality of service from January 2019 to April 2020. The Commission said 98% of the complaints had been resolved, while the remaining were being followed up with the affected network operators for possible resolution. Given a breakdown of the complaints, the industry regulator said 24,481 complaints were received through the NCC's 622 contact centers and 1,007 through its consumer web portal. 269 of the complaints were handwritten. 366 were received via the Commission's social media platforms, while 19 were via the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. China plans new security law for Hong Kong. This and other stories around the globe are next on The World Today. Welcome back. This is the foreign segment of the news. Airbus A320 carrying nearly 1,000 people from Lahore